What would you do if you discovered your child had become everything you swore you'd never raise them to be? The story you're about to hear will show you how one moment of truth can change two lives forever, and why the most important lessons often come from the most unexpected teachers. 17-year-old Tyler Harrison had never worked a day in his life. Why would he? His father, Robert Harrison, owned a tech empire worth $12 billion. Tyler drove a brand new Tesla to school, wore designer clothes that cost more than most people's monthly salary, and lived in a mansion with 16 bedrooms. But all that money couldn't buy him the one thing he desperately lacked: character. Every morning at Westfield Academy, the most exclusive private school in the state, Tyler strutted through the hallways like he owned the place. And in many ways, he did. His father's donations had built the new library, funded the championship football field, and kept the school's endowment growing year after year. But there was one person at Westfield Academy who never bowed down to Tyler's wealth and status. And that person was about to teach him the most important lesson of his life. Miguel Santos had been the head janitor at Westfield Academy for 15 years. At 52 years old, he took immense pride in keeping every hallway spotless, every classroom gleaming, and every bathroom perfectly clean. But Miguel's real job wasn't just maintaining the building. He was raising 3 children as a single father after his wife died in a car accident 5 years earlier. Every morning at 5 a.m., Miguel would kiss his sleeping children goodbye and head to work. His daughter Maria was studying to become a nurse. His son Carlos was on the honor roll and dreamed of becoming an engineer. His youngest, 10-year-old Sophia, wanted to be a teacher just like the one she saw at Daddy's work. Miguel worked 2 jobs to support his family's dreams. After his 8-hour shift at Westfield, he cleaned office buildings until midnight. But he never complained. He understood that honest work, no matter what kind, had dignity. Tyler Harrison saw things very differently. "Hey, janitor," Tyler called out one Tuesday morning, his voice dripping with contempt. "You missed a spot by my locker. Do your job properly." Miguel looked up from mopping the floor, his weathered hands gripping the handle tighter. "Good morning, Tyler. I'll take care of it right away." But Tyler wasn't finished. "And while you're at it, my trash can is full. Empty it. That's what we pay you for, right?" The hallway fell silent. Other students stopped to watch, some pulling out their phones. Miguel's face burned with humiliation, but he nodded quietly and continued working. What Tyler didn't know was that every cruel word was being recorded by the school's security cameras. And what happened next would change everything. For the next 3 weeks, Tyler's harassment escalated. He would accidentally knock over Miguel's cleaning cart, spilling supplies across the freshly mopped floors. He threw his lunch trash on the ground right in front of Miguel, smirking as the older man bent down to pick it up. "Oops," Tyler would say with fake innocence. "Guess that's job security for you." The other wealthy students began following Tyler's lead. They treated Miguel like he was invisible, stepping around him like he was furniture. Some even started deliberately making messes just to watch him clean them up. But Miguel never lost his temper. He simply did his job with quiet dignity, thinking about Maria's upcoming nursing exam, Carlos' science fair project, and Sophia's spelling bee. Every insult Tyler threw at him was another reason to work harder for his children's future. Then came the day that would expose Tyler's true character to the world. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon. Miguel was cleaning the main hallway when he noticed something that made his heart race. There, lying unconscious on the bathroom floor, was Jake Morrison, a sophomore who suffered from severe diabetes. Jake had collapsed during a blood sugar emergency. His glucose monitor was beeping frantically, and his breathing was shallow. Without hesitation, Miguel dropped his mop and rushed to help. "Someone call 911, Miguel shouted as he checked Jake's pulse. He learned basic first aid when his own wife was sick. "And get the nurse." Miguel stayed with Jake, talking to him softly and monitoring his breathing until the paramedics arrived. Thanks to Miguel's quick thinking and care, Jake was stable by the time he reached the hospital. But Tyler, who had witnessed the entire event, saw an opportunity for more cruelty. "Look at that," Tyler sneered to his friends as Miguel returned to finish cleaning. "The janitor thinks he's a doctor now. Probably just wanted attention." Tyler's words cut deep, but Miguel said nothing. He simply picked up his mop and continued working, his heart heavy with the weight of such unnecessary cruelty. But the security cameras had captured everything. Every act of kindness from Miguel, every moment of bullying from Tyler. And someone very important was about to see it all. Robert Harrison had built his empire from nothing. He'd started as a college dropout, sleeping on friends' couches and eating ramen noodles while he coded software in his tiny apartment. He understood struggle, sacrifice, and the value of treating every person with respect. But lately, Robert had been worried. His son Tyler seemed different, arrogant in a way that made Robert's stomach turn. So when Westfield Academy's principal called requesting an urgent meeting, Robert knew something was seriously wrong. "Mr. Harrison," Principal Martinez said gravely, "I need to show you something. But I warn you, it's going to be very difficult to watch." What Robert saw on those security tapes shattered his heart into a million pieces. There was his son, the boy he'd raised to be compassionate and humble, treating another human being like garbage. Tyler's cruelty was captured in high-definition detail. Every sneer, every insult, every moment of deliberate humiliation. But then Robert saw something else. He saw Miguel's incredible dignity in the face of abuse. He saw a man who worked 2 jobs to support his family, who saved a student's life, who cleaned up messes with pride, even while being treated with contempt. Robert watched the footage 3 times, tears streaming down his face. He'd failed as a father. His money had created a monster where he'd tried to raise a man. "I want to meet with Miguel Santos immediately," Robert said, his voice shaking with emotion. That afternoon, Miguel received a message he never expected. The school's billionaire donor wanted to see him in the principal's office. Miguel's hands trembled as he walked down the hallway he'd mopped 1,000 times. Was he being fired? Had Tyler complained about him? When Miguel entered the office, he found Robert Harrison waiting with red-rimmed eyes and an expression of deep shame. "Mr. Santos," Robert began, his voice cracking, "I owe you the most sincere apology of my life. My son's behavior toward you is unforgivable. But more than that, I owe you my gratitude. You saved a student's life while my son mocked your heroism." Miguel stood quietly, unsure how to respond. Robert continued, "I've learned about your family, your sacrifice, your character. You're the kind of man I hope to raise my son to become. Instead, I've raised someone who wouldn't recognize true nobility if it was mopping the floor right in front of him." But what happened next would shock everyone involved. "Mr. Santos," Robert said, pulling out his checkbook, "I want to pay for your daughter's nursing school tuition. All of it. I want to fund your son's college education. And I want to set up a college fund for Sophia." Miguel's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I can't accept charity." "This isn't charity," Robert replied firmly. "This is an investment. You've shown more character in 3 weeks of abuse than most people show in a lifetime. Your children deserve every opportunity, and frankly, they're probably going to change the world." But Robert wasn't finished. "I'm also creating a scholarship program in your name. The Miguel Santos Character Scholarship will go to hardworking students who demonstrate the same values you've shown: dignity, perseverance, and kindness in the face of adversity." Miguel broke down completely. 15 years of early mornings, aching backs, and quiet dignity had led to this moment. His children's dreams were no longer just hopes. They were guaranteed realities. But the most important conversation was yet to come. That evening, Robert sat Tyler down in their mansion's library. The security footage played on the big screen, and Tyler watched his own cruelty reflected back at him. "Dad, I can explain," Tyler started. "No," Robert interrupted sharply. "You're going to listen. Do you know what I was doing when I was your age? I was working at a gas station, pumping gas for people who looked down on me, just like you looked down on Miguel Santos." Tyler had never heard this story. "I built this company with my own hands because I understood that every person has value. Every job has dignity. Every act of kindness matters. But I failed you, son. I've given you everything except the most important thing: character." Robert's voice grew stronger. "Tomorrow, you're going to apologize to Miguel Santos. Not because I'm making you, but because it's right. Then you're going to work alongside him every day after school for the next year. You're going to learn what real work looks like. Tyler tried to protest, but Robert held up a hand. Furthermore, your car is gone. Your credit cards are canceled. Your allowance is finished. You want money? You'll earn it the way Miguel earns it, with honest work and dignity. But the biggest surprise was still coming. And one more thing, Robert added. Miguel Santos is now the director of facilities at Harrison Technologies. He'll be overseeing maintenance for all our office buildings, with a salary that reflects his true value. His children will have internships at our company every summer. Tyler stared at his father in shock. The janitor he'd been tormenting was now essentially his father's employee at the family business. The next morning, Tyler stood outside the supply closet where Miguel was organizing cleaning supplies. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by genuine shame. "Mr. Santos," Tyler said quietly, "I need to apologize to you. What I did was horrible and wrong. I disrespected you, your work, and everything you stand for. I'm sorry." Miguel looked at the teenager with compassionate eyes. "Tyler, we all make mistakes. The question is what we do after we make them." "I want to make it right," Tyler said. "My father says I'm going to work with you. I want to learn. I want to be better." And so began the most important education of Tyler's life. For the next year, Tyler arrived at school early to help Miguel with the morning cleaning. He learned that maintaining a building wasn't mindless work. It required skill, attention to detail, and genuine care for the environment where people learned and grew. Miguel taught Tyler about responsibility, showing him that every task, no matter how small, contributes to something bigger. When Tyler complained that mopping was boring, Miguel explained how clean floors prevented accidents that could hurt students. "Everything we do matters to someone," Miguel said. "The question is whether we do it with pride or with resentment." Slowly, Tyler began to understand. He started noticing things he'd never seen before. He saw how Miguel remembered every student's name, how he always had a kind word for kids who seemed lonely, how he worked extra hours before school events to make sure everything was perfect. But the real transformation came when Tyler met Miguel's family. On a Saturday morning, Tyler went to Miguel's modest apartment to help him fix a broken sink. There he met Maria, who was studying for her nursing finals while working part-time at a clinic. Carlos showed Tyler his robotics project, built from parts he'd saved money to buy. And Sophia, with her bright smile and endless questions, reminded Tyler of the joy he'd lost somewhere along the way to becoming wealthy and cruel. "Your children are incredible," Tyler told Miguel as they worked on the sink. "They're everything I work for," Miguel replied simply. "Every early morning, every late night, every moment of pride I swallow, it's all for them." Tyler suddenly understood his father's anger. Miguel was working twice as hard as anyone Tyler knew, and doing it with more grace and dignity than Tyler had ever shown in his privileged life. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Tyler had to unlearn 17 years of entitlement and arrogance. But with Miguel as his teacher, he gradually became the young man his father had always hoped he would be. By the end of the school year, Tyler had become Miguel's most trusted assistant. He could strip and wax floors, fix broken desks, and maintain the school's gardens. But more importantly, he'd learned to see people, really see them, regardless of their job title or bank account. The other students noticed the change too. Tyler, who once led the bullying, now stood up for anyone being mistreated. He started tutoring struggling students and organizing fundraisers for families in need. But the most beautiful moment came at graduation. Tyler was valedictorian, but his speech wasn't about academic achievement. Instead, he talked about the most important teacher he'd ever had, a man who taught him that character isn't measured by what you have, but by how you treat others. "Miguel Santos showed me that true nobility comes from service," Tyler told the crowd. "He saved a student's life while I mocked his heroism. He treated me with kindness while I treated him with cruelty. He worked 2 jobs to build his children's futures while I complained about having to make my own bed." In the audience, Miguel wiped away tears as Tyler continued. "Today, I'm not just graduating from high school. I'm graduating from selfishness to service, from privilege to purpose, from taking up space to making a difference." Tyler looked directly at Miguel. Thank you for seeing who I could become, even when I couldn't see it myself. 5 years later, Tyler graduated from college with a degree in social work. His first job was running a nonprofit organization that provided job training and support for working parents like Miguel. Maria Santos became a pediatric nurse, just as she dreamed. Carlos graduated as a mechanical engineer and started his own robotics company. Sophia, now 15, was already volunteering at the children's hospital where Maria worked. Miguel Santos retired from cleaning buildings, but he never retired from teaching. As director of community outreach at Harrison Technologies, he helped create programs that supported working families throughout the city. And Tyler Harrison? He married his college girlfriend, a teacher who shared his passion for helping others. At their wedding, Miguel walked Tyler down the aisle, the father figure who taught him how to be a man when his own father's money had failed to do the job. Robert Harrison watched from the front row, tears in his eyes. His son had become everything he'd hoped for, thanks to a janitor who'd refused to let cruelty dim his light. The security cameras that once captured Tyler's bullying now recorded something beautiful. A young man who'd learned that true wealth comes from lifting others up, not putting them down. Here's what this story teaches us about life. Character isn't born from comfort. It's forged through challenge, humility, and the willingness to learn from those we might otherwise overlook. Miguel Santos could have quit when faced with Tyler's harassment. He could have grown bitter and resentful. Instead, he chose dignity, and that choice transformed not just his own life, but the life of his tormentor. Tyler Harrison could have remained the spoiled, cruel teenager he'd become. But when confronted with his own reflection, he chose growth over pride, service over selfishness. Sometimes the people we need most in our lives are the ones we notice least. The janitor, the cashier, the maintenance worker. These are often the people who understand struggle, perseverance, and the real meaning of honest work. Every day, you encounter people whose stories you don't know, whose struggles you can't see, whose dignity deserves your respect regardless of their job title or bank account. The next time you see someone working to keep your world clean, safe, or functional, remember Miguel Santos. Remember that behind every uniform is a person with dreams, responsibilities, and more strength than you might imagine. And if you ever find yourself in Tyler's shoes, with power you didn't earn and privileges you take for granted, remember that true nobility comes from lifting others up, not putting them down. Because in the end, we're all working toward the same goal, building a better world for the people we love. The question is whether we'll do it with cruelty or kindness, with arrogance or humility, with closed hearts or open minds. Miguel Santos chose kindness every single day, even when kindness wasn't returned. That choice changed 2 families forever and created ripples of goodness that will last for generations. What choice will you make today?